favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Aditya.
This is episode 320 on the 1st of Feb 2021 of India's only digital radio talk show. Let's start today's episode with this beautiful song of a TV show. Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state. Then, nearly 14 billion years ago, expansion started. Wait, the earth began to rule, the autotrophs began to rule. Neanderthal developed tool. We built a wall. We built the pyramids. Mad science history, unraveling the mystery. And all started with the Big Bang. Since the dawn of man is really not that long, as every galaxy was formed in less than time than it takes to sing this song, a fraction of a second, and the elements were made. The bipeds stood up straight, the dinosaurs all met their fate. They tried to leave, but they were late, and they all died. The oceans and the Pangea Sea wouldn't want to be set in motion by the same Big Bang. It all started with the Big Bang. It's expanding ever outward, but one day it will pause and start to go the other way, collapsing ever inward. We won't be there, it won't be heard. Our best and brightest figure that it'll make an even bigger bang. Ostropolitus would really have been sick of us debating how we are here. They're catching deer, religion or astronomy, Descartes or Deuteronomy. It all started with the Big Bang. Music and mythology, Einstein and astrology, it all started with the Big Bang. It all started with the Big Bang. Welcome back. The second song of this morning's episode is Terito Terita Hamesha Yaad Satawe. I don't know what you're saying. All I know is that I came to party. Terito Terita Hamesha Yaad Satawe. I don't know what you're saying. All I know is that I came here to. There's a party going on and they are playing your favorite song. So, girl, get you on the floor. I don't wanna hear no more. I don't want no excuse. You got rhythm, so put it to use. And if you really wanna get down, take my hand and let me spin you around. Round we go, round we go, round we go, round we go. Terito, terita, हमेशा याद सतावे. Rock the party, oye hoye nikuriye teri jawani. Rock the party, oye hoye jawani akmastani. Shake your body, oye hoye jawani teri jawani. While we rock the party, oh hi. तेरी याद सतावे तेनू देख देख बस एक पल वेक वेक मुझे नींद न आवे रात रात मैंने नींद न आवे रात रात तेरी याद सतावे रोज रुलावे नींद उड़ावे जान ले जावे होश उड़ावे रात रात होश उड़ावे रात रात एक बारी आजा एक बारी आजा एक बारी तू आजा round we go round we go round we go तेरी तो तेरी ता हमेशा याद सतावे I don't know what you're saying. All I know is I came here to rock the party, rock the party. तेरी तो तेरी ता हमेशा याद सतावे. Welcome back after the break. In the world of sports and business, there are no friends, no opponents, no alliances, and even if there are some alliances in the world of business and sports, it's only superficial. But in the world of sports and business, there are only opportunities. But still, currently, the term used between two organizations or two sports athletes is rivalry. It baffles me. What does the term rival mean? Is it enmity? Is it opponent? Is it opportunity? Because everybody on this planet is an opportunist. Opportunist. There are no friends, no opponents, no alliances. Everybody wants to make profit, whether it's in the field of sports or business. In that sense, let's talk about three tennis players who are called the big three in the example of Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer. They have won multiple Grand Slams. For example, Djokovic has won 17 majors, Nadal has won 13 French Open titles, which is a record, and this is how we judge the likes of Djokovic and Nadal and Federer to such an extent that it's being postulated that or hypothesized that once these three retire or call it a day, the incoming next gen. What is next gen? I don't know. One era's next gen is the other era's big three legendary Hall of Famers. But the next gen, which are looked at with skepticism because of the majors and titles won by those three. For example, Dominic Thiem, Daniel Medvedev, Alexander Zverev, Andrei Rublev, Stefanos Tsitsipas from Greek, the Russians, and Dominic Thiem. They are good players, but whenever there is the talk of French Open, the Australian Open, the US Open, in the Olympics, in the non-Olympic championships, everything revolves around Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. When it comes to tennis, it's always Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, or in the women's tennis, it's about the two sisters, Venus and Serena Williams. We don't look beyond them. We don't look. the ones before have retired, the likes of Steffi Graf and Billie Jean King have retired. They left their legacy, which is understood. But it's time, is it time to go beyond the likes of Nadal, Djokovic, Federer? Yes, they are good players, and it's not about whether when they will retire and rest as far as the sport is concerned. Why is there so much obsession around them? That's humanity. We create certain obsessions around certain sports athletes that we get blinded. We can't go beyond them. These three individuals are rivals. It's a universal truth that they don't like each other. When they play against each other, there is healthy respect. Yes, there is, of course, who trails whom by how many majors. But apart from that, these three are rivals, but there is a healthy respect. They are not friends. When they play against each other, they play to beat the other. And if the likes of Dominic Thiem, Daniel Medvedev, Andrei Rublev, Stefanos go on to beat any one of them, it will become a big deal. That's a huge deal when you beat a potential Hall of Famer. Talking about the Hall of Fame, as far as the world of talk show goes in India, I'm already in the Hall of Fame, putting the rest in the Hall of Shame. As far as sports analytics goes, there is no one better. There was no one better, and even if there are people who come after me, it will be on the standards set by me. But we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about this idea of rivalry in the world of business, whether it's Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Apple, Airtel, Vodafone, Idea, or any of these organizations. They are rivals. They have only one motive: to have maximum subscribers, maximum clients. And even if two of these organizations come together for an alliance, for a partnership, it's for one motive, not for friendship, for business. It's all about opportunities. There is nothing greater in this world than looking at opportunities, even if we have to form superficial alliances with the other. Whether it's two governments of two countries forming alliances like the four, like the Quad, in which there is India, Japan, US, and one more country. They are not friends, they are not rivals, they are not enemies. There is healthy respect, but there is only one motive: opportunities. Opportunity to outdo the other, or together. A friend of my friend is my enemy. Though for me, I don't agree with the terms rival, enemy. For me, in sports, there are no enemies. If India plays Pakistan, it should be seen as a normal match, not as a match that if India beats Pakistan, it's in the realm of nationalism. That thought process has to go. Or if, whether it's hockey, cricket, football, if two countries play each other, they play because they have to win. The sports athletes do not play for the pride of nationalism. That's just superficial. That's to make a few pseudo and hyper nationalists happy. But when Virat Kohli plays for Virat Kohli. Tendulkar played to make Tendulkar a bigger, better player. Tendulkar never played for India. India never played for Tendulkar. They are two separate entities. Similarly, Roger Federer plays for Roger Federer. He doesn't care which country he represents. Similar is the case of Nadal, Djokovic, or any other, Dominic Thiem, Naomi Osaka, Ashley Barty, who was supposedly a former cricket player. They all play for themselves. Everybody in this world whether it's business, sport, or any other entity, whether it's two sporting countries coming face to face for a match or two individual sports athletes coming face to face for a match or two business organizations aligning together because they have only one motive: profit. It is irrelevant which country they belong to. Things like nationalism, patriotism are not even the focus. And even if there is talk about nationalism, it is just to keep a few pseudo and hyper nationalist elements at bay. Time to take a short break. Welcome back after the break. Talking about rivalry when India and England start their match on Friday. When the 22 players meet on the field, they have only one thing in their mind: to earn a livelihood for themselves and their family, to put food on the table and nothing more. All the talk about playing for your country is only at best superficial, and the only way if we want to represent an institution, it's nothing more than that. Whether they represent the Indian Cricket Board, which is a quasi private government organization, or whether they play for the country is a matter of debate. But when these 22 players, or when the Football World Cup happens in 2023, 2022 in Qatar, when those 16 to 17 teams meet, all the 100 odd players have only one thing in mind: to represent, to earn a livelihood, to make sure that if they go on to win the championship, they will get a good, healthy check. It's all about paycheck, whether it's sports, business, or any other thing. Why do we criticize educational institutes, private or semi autonomous, for having high fees? The education institutes also have employees. The employees need to earn a living, and those who can pay the fees should go for it. It's merit is a part, but equally, if you can afford it, go for it. I don't mind high fees. It shouldn't be too high so that an individual doesn't get an opportunity. But whether it's IIT, DU, or any other such organization, they are in their own bubble. They are rivals. That is a fact. Everybody is a rival to everyone. Though I said that there are no rivals, no friends, no enemies, but to put up a term, everybody is a rival to everyone. The concept of rivalry has been programmed in humans right from the point they were born. Whether it was playing for your school against other schools, that the emotions associated for representing your school, representing your college, and then going on to represent a pseudo country, it's always been programmed in individuals that you represent a certain institution, a certain group, a certain country, and the other side are your rivals. If you lose to them, you lose respect. For me, if two institutions, that is sporting institutions, whether it's two schools meet face to face, one will win. But for me, when they both play, they have healthy respect, but they are rivals. This concept of rivalry, which has been programmed into humans, needs to be deprogrammed. It's a little disconcerting about this whole concept of nationalism and pseudo nationalism which has come up as far as representing one's country is concerned. PV Sindhu plays for PV Sindhu. Manika Batra from table tennis plays for Manika Batra. But since she has to play at the world level, you have to play for an institution, that is the Sports Authority of India and the Indian Olympic Association, who select you after they judge and evaluate your performances. Then they send a contingent so that you can play. Yes, it's only a minor thing that you play for India. Otherwise, all these athletes who will represent Olympics or any, or the Hockey World Cup, the Cricket World Cup, the Football Asian Cup, or any other such tournaments, they all play for themselves. It's all about livelihood and putting food on the table. As simple as that. Let's take a short break. Welcome back after the break. A few pseudo and hyper nationalists will obviously be upset when I said that we don't represent our country, we represent ourselves. I have nothing to say to them except that do something other than pretending to care about all these things. Nationalism doesn't work, it has never worked, it's a failed technique to get people moving. Everybody does everything for livelihood, for money, for business. That's the only motive. Profit is the only motive in the minds of individuals. The concept of nation states, the concept of a country is only at best abstract. It's only for administrative convenience, nothing more than that. So, my only word to these hyper nationalists would be don't even waste your time pretending to be nationalist. Everyone knows what the concept of nationalism entails. And as far as two individuals are concerned, representing their respective countries, if that was the case, then why would a Tanveer Sangha, for example, whose parents and grandparents belong to India, would shift to Australia, and why would he play for Australia? And why are we getting excited about the likes of Tanveer Sangha? I don't even understand what is this idea behind Indian origin. Who are we trying to fool? There is no Indian origin. If somebody decides today to go to another country, become a citizen, then their children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, generations will be from that country. And this whole historic in this whole concept of bloodline, that they belong to this particular country, their great grandparents were born here, it is meaningless. If Tanveer Sangha is right now an Australian, his father may have shifted to that country 25 to 30 years ago, but that doesn't affect. What if Tanveer Sangha was in India? Would he have been selected? Well, we'll see. Yes, there is, of course, a certain concern about a 19-year-old being selected. He should be used carefully. Well, he is a person, not an object that he needs to be used carefully. If he has been selected after he performed well in the domestic competition, in the 20 over domestic World Cup, if the selectors feel that they need to give chances to 19-year-olds so that they can play, earn a livelihood, earn a higher percentage of fees, then go ahead, select anyone, but do not associate him with this Indian origin conception. This doesn't work. It didn't work with a certain Monty Python. It doesn't matter if his great grandparents were in India, they shifted to UK, London, England. He settled there, he is their citizen, his accent is of that region where he came from. The whole bloodline is irrelevant. This whole concept of getting excited about a few pseudo Indian Americans, it's this concept, they don't care. Satya Nadella doesn't care whether he was in India. He is a US citizen. He has been given an opportunity in Microsoft. He will use that opportunity to earn a livelihood. Yes, Google, Microsoft are rivals, and we get excited that Sundar Pichai or Satya Nadella or others had Indian origins. This debate has no base, and therefore don't get all hyper nationalistic. Let's take a small break. Over the last 3 to 5 years, humans have been using quasi communication methods such as WhatsApp, Telegram to communicate with others. Why? Because it's easier, it's cheaper, one doesn't have to work hard as much as we work on emails. But for me, email is the most civilized and the organized way of communication and has been for over decades. Let's look at this statistic. The average professional spends 28% of the work day reading and answering emails, according to a McKinsey analysis. For the average full time worker in America, that amounts to a staggering 2.6 hours spent and 120 messages received per day. We all receive thousands of emails every day. This email is the most civilized and organized way of communication and has been for over decades. Emails are more or less the extension of a handwritten or a typed letter or a typewriter or any such similar correspondence. But individuals now prefer to give their email address rather than their correspondence address. There are basically two reasons for the same. Humans are basically nomads, so one's place of residence is fluid. Most individuals reside in rented apartments, so it's not fixed, and we don't want strangers coming to our house with letters and such correspondence. Emails, on the other hand, one doesn't have to change even if we buy a new electronic device. We simply add the email and it becomes synced forever. With email being the most crucial communication method, despite the intrusion of quasi communication methods such as WhatsApp, it is important to keep your email inbox cluttered. The psychology associated with constant checking of email is, anyways, subjective and not a sign of wastage and overload. Keeping this inbox decluttered is an elementary exercise. Here are a few steps to keep your inbox decluttered. Add important contacts to your address box. Often we receive emails, but they go into spam, which often goes unnoticed. Spam and junk folders keep your address from falling prey to malware. So it is up to you to decide which email is to be added and which address is to be left in the junk folder, which automatically deletes after 30 days. Which contact is important is subjective, but at least with whom you contact regularly, add them to the contact so that they appear in your inbox. Mark all as read. Just like in text messages, there is an option to mark all as read, so at least the email received are not highlighted or there is no number next to the inbox. We can read the emails later. Making them as read relaxes us instead of seeing blue and red marks all over the email. It does not look ugly. If you are sending the same email to lot of contacts, often we send one email if the organization you work for has designated you to send the same text to multiple people. We send it separately. This can work sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. The ideal solution would be to send the same message or correspondence to multiple people together. Most hesitate because it means selecting addresses from the contact list. One message, multiple recipients, same email. So there is one message and multiple recipients of the same email. But there is a caveat. Your recipient's address should be in the BCC, blind carbon copy. This has the following advantage. Before we go further, let's take a short break. Welcome back after the break. Let's continue the advantage of the blind carbon copy. It protects your email address privacy. For security and privacy reasons, it is best to use the blind carbon copy feature when sending an email message to a large number of people. When you place email addresses in the BCC field of a message, those addresses are invisible to the recipients of the email. Conversely, any email address that you place in the to field or the CC field are visible to everyone who receives the message. What are the benefits of using blind carbon copy? Using the blind carbon copy field to send an email message to a large group of people has a number of benefits, including the privacy of email addresses is protected in the original message. Recipients will receive the message but won't be able to see the addresses listed in the BCC field. When an email is forwarded, the addresses of everyone in the to and CC field are also forwarded along with the message. Addresses that have been placed in the BCC field are not forwarded. If you have placed a large list of recipients in the to or carbon copy field, all of them will receive the reply. By placing recipients in the BCC field, you can help protect them against receiving unnecessary replies from anyone using the reply all feature. Many viruses and spam programs are now able to sift through mail files and address books for email addresses. Using the BCC field acts as an anti-spam precaution. It reduces the likelihood that recipients will receive a spam message or a virus from another recipient's infected computer. Let's take a short break before we go further. let's go further in this discussion. You should create folders in your email inbox. Think of your email as the drawers attached to your table. Think of your email as the drawers attached to your table. Each drawer is designated for keeping different sorts of files. We often label the same so that a certain type of document is slotted into that drawer. It is the same logic with emails. We receive bills in emails, taxi, electricity, phones. We subscribe to multiple newsletters, for example, Medium, Britannica, Wordsmith, Webster's. Now, whether such subscriptions are adding or subtracting to your productivity is a different matter altogether and not the scope of this discussion. But till the time you subscribe to these digital magazines or newsletters, the first step is to create folders. This helps you track the email you may have received 6 months ago or 6 years ago. It is time stamped, which is easy to detect when you put it in the folder. Downloading documents and images. Since email is seen as the high speed way to send documents and images, replacing fax and post, the first step to take is to download any documents received, PDF or JPEG, onto your computer, which can be read or seen later, then sending the email to the concerned folder as discussed above. This way, one does not have to go back to opening the inbox and trying to remember on which date the email arrived or who sent it. When you do download the JPEG or PDF or Word documents onto your computer, be cognizant of the fact that these documents get literally downloaded into the downloads folder of your browser. That's a default setting unless you change it. The next logical step is to drag the files from the said downloads folder of the browser on your desktop. Otherwise, you will find yourself downloading the same document multiple times. Video conferencing and email fatigue. Humans are paradoxical. First, they see video conferencing as a future which replaces physical and in person meeting as a boon, and when there are too many, we pretend to feel the heat. Just because there are meetings does not mean we don't have the discretion to attend or not to attend. If humans can't exercise such a simple choice or pick and choose, then there is nothing more to add. It is a similar story of email fatigue. Email will always remain the most secure, civilized, and cultured way of communicating when it comes to sending messages. Unlike pseudo and quasi methods of communication like WhatsApp, where the environment is messy, chaotic, and question of privacy are coming into the discussion, where it is useful while sending messages for quick communication rather than distinct and succinct messages. Before worrying about the email fatigue and moving to statistics that one spends millions of hours on emails, we should make efforts to deactivate those pseudo and quasi applications. Let's take a short break after so much of information that I have relayed to my dear listeners. Welcome back after the break. Let's end this morning's beautiful episode by reading from Sherlock Holmes, the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle, The Adventure of the Silver Blaze. On that evening, the horses had been exercised and watered as usual, and the stables were locked up at 9 o'clock. Two of the lads walked up to the trainer's house where they had supper in the kitchen, while the third, Ned Hunter, remained on guard. At a few minutes after 9, the maid, Edith Baxter, carried down to the stables his supper, which consisted of a dish of curried mutton. She took no liquid as there was a water tap in the stables, and it was a rule that the lad on duty should drink nothing else. The maid carried a lantern with her as it was very dark and the path ran across the open moor. Let's take a short break and then continue. Welcome back after the break. Edith Baxter was within 30 yards of the stables when a man appeared out of the darkness and called her to stop. As she stepped out into the circle of yellow light thrown by the lantern, she saw that he was a person of gentlemanly bearing, dressed in a grey suit of tweeds with a cloth cap. He wore gaiters and carried a heavy stick with a knob to it. She was most impressed, however, by the extreme pallor of his face and by the nervousness of his manner. His age, she thought, would be rather over 30 than under it. Can you tell me where I am? He asked. I had almost made up my mind to sleep on the moor when I saw the light of your lantern. You are quite close to the king's Pyland training stables, said she. Oh, indeed, what a stroke of luck, he cried. I understand that a stable boy sleeps there alone every night. Perhaps that is his supper which you are carrying to him. Now I am sure that you would not be too proud to earn the price of a new dress, would you? He took a piece of white paper folded up out of his waistcoat pocket. See that the boy has this tonight, and you shall have the prettiest frock that money can buy. She was frightened by the earnestness of his manner and ran past him to the window through which she was accustomed to hand the meals. It was already opened, and Hunter was seated at the small table inside. She had begun to tell him of what had happened when the stranger came up again. This ends episode number 320 of India's only digital radio talk show.